yes, if parenting had a GPS, it would mostly read it would mostly read recalibrating. Let me also just try and record from my end as well. So we have to. All right. So we are inviting you to a place of recalibration, and recalibration as in continuous recalibration. Continuous recalibration. It's okay to wake up in the morning and to do things differently from what you did this morning, and something different the morning after and the morning after. Okay. Yeah, I don't want to start answering the questions that have not been asked yet. So let me just leave it there, and we will come back again as we go. So I just wanted to ground us in these two spaces to give us a foundation. All right. And then take it back to Wangare, and just encouraging our wonderful coaches as the questions come in. If you see that we haven't addressed any, just flag it to Wangare and let us know so that we do not leave anyone behind. Back to you, Wangare.
Hi, Dr. Caro. I hope you can hear me. I am back. I just want to open up the chat box so that I can see what we're saying. Okay. Karibu sana. We are very excited to be here. I think that last note you said, Dr. Caro, the quote for if parenting has a GPS. Yani, sometimes I say that as a coach. I'm like, if coaching had a GPS as well, it would also just read recalibrating, because sometimes you think you have it figured out, but you don't. And I think I can speak for the coaches who are present here. Even with all the work we do here at Star, we come to just keep ourselves on point. We also kind of feel like we're recalibrating a lot. It's normal if you feel like that. You are just in the normal space. We are here, all of us together. Let's jump right into the questions. Dr. Caro, I hope you're ready. We have very many questions.
Oh my goodness. And again, coaches, I'm going to be calling you out to chime in also, so that this becomes a community effort. So go for it, Wangare.
Yes, and also at the same time, for the 54 people who are here, just feel free to throw in the chat box your thoughts, your opinions, clarifications. Maybe we said that beef is not meat and we are wrong. Please just share that with us. We are willing to hear you out. The first question is, during sibling rivalry, is it sometimes to just let the kids work it out, stay out of it and be like, what you guys figure it out, work things out? What do you think?
Good question. Good question. And let me tell you, I probably will be handling the short answer and the long answer, right? And a lot of it depends. I'm just giving you a disclaimer out there. But is it good to let them work it out and fight? Absolutely, yes. Okay, it is. However, which comes into the long answer. When we begin to understand why sibling rivalry happens, then we again think about, in the moment, do what you need to do, but how can we meet the needs of the children outside the moment? One of the biggest reasons for sibling rivalry is the need for a sense of belonging. They're just jostling for a sense of belonging. Where do I belong? The power struggles. We talk about that in our sessions when we talk about the buckets our children have. And the A is for attention, B is for belonging, and C is for control or power. So all the ABCs are actually very fundamental needs for our children. And that is the reason why they find themselves in power struggles. So we actually do need to remember where it's coming from. So even as much as you're saying, okay, fine, you guys sort it out, it's important to figure out the why behind the what and look for ways of meeting those needs for attention, belonging, and control during the calm times. Okay, but still back to what it is, letting the kids sort it out themselves. I usually ask, with what skills? What skills have we given them? It could be in modeling, it could be through role play. So we also need to be very active in how to give them those skills. And when do we give them those skills? Not when it's happening, not in the moment, okay? So figure out different times when you can actually see, saying, okay, guys, this has been happening for a while. Let's figure this out. What's going on? And you give them the skills. A lot of these skills, I mean, problem solving and conflict resolution skills are not, we don't get them naturally, all right? We have to create times to be able to help them learn those skills during the quiet, during the calmer time. So short answer, yes. The long answer, I think it's clear. And anyone else can add, and you can add a question on top of that question, including you, Wangari.
No problem. Yes. If you feel like you'd like to add on something, please just raise your hand so that I can see you. I see one, any of the coaches who would like to add on that. In the meanwhile, somebody in the chat box has asked if the meeting is being recorded. Yes. And they specifically said for emphasis when we are seeing the shark. And I just wanted to say that our pages, our Story Camp pages, our socials, our numbers are always available, by the way. When you're having those seeing the shark moments, there's a lot of content there to just revisit. But yes, the meeting is being recorded. You can visit. Jackie, thank you. Please say something.
Thank you very much, Dr. Carol. And just to add, when you're saying what skill sets do they have, it's what tools do you, maybe someone is asking for sibling rivalry or just brothers who are fighting. I saw two boys in church who couldn't let go of each other from the time the service began. Their mom kept on coming. They couldn't even go to children's of the 1.5 hours. And my heart absolutely went out to her because it's an occurrence, not all the time, but also in my space. And to have tools consistently. One is modeling, or because they have to see how we respond to them in times of intense moments, as we say it here. Like when they have an intense moment, how do you respond? Because you'll notice if you respond to your child in a loud voice, as they say, why are you talking to me loudly? The probability of them responding to their sibling louder than you is very high. So the parenting is happening in the background, so allow me to move. So if you respond to them by criticizing, it's definitely because that's how they pick up. If you're angry with someone, this is what you do. You shout at them, you hit them. So if they're angry at someone, that's what they'll model. So one, the work is on us. How do we model those intense moments? If we model gentleness, that is what in 77% of the time will be copied by them. And one of the other things I encourage them that we have done this today is just to breathe in. Just take someone and say, let's breathe. Let's breathe together with me. Let's breathe. Then tell me what you're feeling. So it's simple, not complicate. Model it and breathe. That we can all do. If you have the luxury of space, Wangari being one of our children coaches, we're talking about a peace table. There are those homes that have a peace table. So if you have a dispute, it's your dispute resolution corner, where if someone is seated, they're inviting you for a conversation. But then that calls for a lot of the smaller steps being taken. And finally, they can realize if you see someone seated, they're inviting you for a conversation. So we can sit here and discuss our feelings. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jackie. That was so amazing. And I just wanted to add, as a children's coach, one of the skills that we try to teach the kids is definitely on conflict resolution. But basically, what we teach them, one of the things we teach them is boundaries. A lot of kids don't know anything about boundaries. They know that they don't want their toys to be touched by their sibling, but they don't understand the inverse. of that whole situation. You know, sometimes it's good to just be clear about boundaries when it comes to personal space, toys, and stuff like that. Let's try and teach them. And I feel like when siblings we can take this moment to just unpack screen time and like the limitations and the challenges that come alongside it. Thank you.
Yeah. And that came a lot. I think 60% of the questions have to do with the screen. And that's very telling. You know, it's very, very telling that that's a real issue. I think one of the things is, first of all, to normalize that screen time struggles are there because for many reasons, one being that we are digital, most of the parents, we are digital immigrants. We're getting into this space. We don't take naturally to the screen as our children do, which sometimes I'm like, it's no longer true because we are just on our screens as much as our children are. But the reality is that we have a mindset to actually take a break if we really need to, and our children don't have that mindset. So number one, let's normalize the struggles because again, there's a lot of information out there damning parents and telling them, kids, off the screen, it's doing this, it's doing that, and it brings you into a shock moment. Every time you see you're struggling with our children, again, it's because, you know, it's more of a shock moment than anything else. So can we just take a moment and normalize, number one? Number two, you know, it's okay to just have an everyday plan. The thing is, sometimes we come into this, we have 2 months. So we sit down at the beginning of the holiday and we have a plan for the entire time that our kids were with. And yes, we've sat down, we've agreed, and so we've even signed contracts and all that, and we've agreed on how the routines will go. But the reality is, it's not going to go that way. It's not going to go that way. The plans that we have to be directed. So I usually say, take a step back and actually have a daily plan or an every 2-day plan. Wake up in the morning or in the evening. Talk about how will our day be like tomorrow. We make a lot of assumptions that just because we've made a plan, then we don't have to repeat these things to our children. Remember, the things that we are expecting our children to do is the purview of the executive functions, problem solving, thinking through, logical reasoning, having empathy, making the right decisions, decision making, all those things. They are not yet, most of our children are not yet fully, you know, the part of the brain that is responsible for all that is not yet, has not even come online, okay? And honestly, it's from age 8 that you should start expecting, like very naturally, you should start expecting them to think through that. And it still develops. Some people say 32, others say we continue. You know, that part of the brain continues. So again, thinking about the goldfish is not capable of making decisions around the screen on their own. And it is up to you to decide that you're not going to get tired laying the groundwork. Our season right now with our children, it's for laying the groundwork. It's not for saying, I told you, and so 3 weeks from now, you should be doing the same thing. Relax, okay? Recalibrate. Be okay with with coming up with a plan every evening and talking about that plan. Tomorrow, this is what's going to happen. And by the way, it doesn't take long if you make it a habit. Also, it doesn't take long if you are consistently connecting with your children. Because one of the things we say in these spaces is our children respond to us better when they feel connected to us, okay? So I hope you're hearing what I'm saying. I'm not giving you tips. I'm not telling you how many hours, because really that depends on what is going on with you in your home, in your setting, and it might change every day. All we are just saying is extended times of screen time, not good for your kids. Too much screen times, especially for under 2, absolutely not good for kids. And so we need to figure out what can we do and what kind of plans can we make on an everyday basis while we are still connecting with our children, so that we can make those plans one at a time. Because the reality is, if you type how to engage children during the holidays for the next 2 months, it will bring 200 million results, okay? And most of them are doable. The issue is not about the tips. We're not even here to tell you this specific consequences. And when don't get into them, you will have another discussion in the evening about what didn't work and what worked, because it didn't work, this is the consequence. Tomorrow, this is not going to happen because this didn't happen. So don't get into their business during the day. And I know that is more applicable with the older children, but even with the younger ones, we can do it in smaller bits. Okay, so I hope that is clear. I really don't want to give you specific timelines and specific activities. I'm not going to be fair to you. I have a 15-year-old, and my lifestyle is very different from Wangari, who has a 10-year-old, and Jackie, who has four kids, between age this and this, and with a lot of other activities. So can we just open ourselves up to getting the principles behind these conversations that we are having?
Amazing. Jules actually says, wow, I am getting help. And I just wanted to add a bit on what you said, Dr. Carol, with 2 things. One, first of all of us who are here and we are really want to fight this screen time monster. I want to say that during this process, the way Dr. Carol said, the way the process takes time, you have to also be able to forgive yourself the day that the kids were on the screen longer than you intended, because that's the only way you're able to stay consistent. Because sometimes it's Sunday and you kind of needed to sleep in, so they watch TV all day, and now Monday you feel like you can go back to being strict about screen time because you let it go yesterday. No. Imagine, just forgive yourself. All of us, it's a process. Even us as grown-ups, we struggle with screen time too. So I guess it's just to be in a space of forgiving yourselves. Now, I know there's there's a specific part of the question that was asking about the kind of programming that we give our kids. And I just wanted to say that maybe we might not be able to share that right now, but there are resources that help parents to find appropriate TV content for the different age groups. There's a website that actually even highlights the themes in the shows or the movies so that you can see if it aligns with your values. Some movies are appropriate for kids but don't align with the value system that you might be having in your home. So please ask for help. You might be a digital immigrant, as Dr. Carol said, but like even here in this space, we have parents who might be more conversant with the digital space than others, but there is definitely resources to help you maybe just figure out what's the best kind of content for your 4-year-old, for your 7-year-old, and also tools that help you to do things like restricting screen time. Like, do you have 3 hours a day? There's actually tools where you're not at home, but that screen can only be functional for the 3 hours that they require. Again, there's so many resources out there that could support you along this journey. I don't know if any other coach.
Yeah, let me just jump in there and ask if you have ideas, if what is working for you in terms of parental controls, please put in the chat, please share with others. Then, of course, there's Common Sense Media, which really helps you to screen. That's what you're talking about. If you want to know if something is appropriate or not, Common Sense Media is great, and that is universal. And locally, we also have EveMinet Communications. My friend Evelyn does this. Is in this space of family digital health, and so you can go EveMinet Communications. You can check it out as well. But basically, like, a lot of these gadgets have inbuilt features that can help you. Your iPhones, your phones, your Chrome has, there's a lot of family link apps that can help you. But it has to be in the context of a relationship, y'all. That is bottom line. Okay? They will go around those things. Let's not just do the policing work. Let's focus on the meeting the needs of the goldfish. Just go to the next question.
Amazing. Please, again, share in the chat box any tips or tools. Myself, I'm going to share. Google has an app called Parent Link. This app allows you to link directly to your child's gadget. It allows you to control what apps they download, what features they are able to access, and also helps you manage screen time and downtime. Again, I repeat, the app is called Parent Link by Google. It's a great app. You install it in every gadget that you give your child, and it gives you a bit of control. I hope these tips are being super, super helpful. And I want us to maybe jump into another question, even if you're sharing the stuff in the in the chat box. Now, we have some questions here again, Dr. Caro, that I feel like fall under the same category. So allow me to read all of them. Now, we have a question that says, we have children who behave ignorant. You try to switch talk them, but they remain ignorant. How patient do I have to be? Now, in the same light, there's somebody in the chat box who said, I think the question was, these children want us to do this. It was about using gentle parenting, but not having gentle children. Yeah. And then there was another one that said, sorry, just let me read it out. It says, so yeah, the one for the gentle says, these kids are not gentle, yet we are supposed to be gentle parents, disciplining them. And what is the effective strategy when it comes to that? So I think it's around a lot of arrogance, and how do you deal with that? Gently, or am I supposed to be just beating it out of them? Yeah, over to you, Dr. Carol.
Good question. I think for me, I'm always uncomfortable with the phrase gentle parenting, because what is that even? Like, what is that? What is gentle parenting? You know, and the term I prefer is conscious parenting. Okay, and conscious just invites you to be more aware of what's going on with you, which then is a process. Conscious parenting helps you become less reactive and more responsive over time as you continue to work on yourself. And so, nobody, I mean, I'm not going to ask anyone to be gentle. All right, because sometimes when you're dealing with pushback from your 15-year-old and you're taking away their privileges at that point, and they are pushing back. I mean, I'm also triggered, you know. I'm not gonna be like, oh, be quiet and all that. I can't do that. So I'm inviting us also just to release that mindset that gentleness is being passive. I mean, for me, gentle denotes being passive and all. And so what I'm inviting you, instead of gentle parenting, to just be more conscious, to continue to work on yourself and learn how to draw boundaries through coming up with consequences that, you know what, you co-create those consequences for the most part, especially for the older kids. Okay. And so let us invite ourselves into being more conscious. I don't know if I have gone off topic with that. What was the question again?
No, Dr. Caro. I mean, you're answering the question either way. Okay. I think the question was not only around gentle parenting, but also about pushback, right? What happens then when you're in the midst of your gentle parenting, or maybe not so gentle parenting, but the kids are being, you know how teenagers are, arrogant or just pushing back, getting shouted at while trying to lay down the law. What are some helpful tips to just navigate that space?
Yeah, I think that again becomes a result of things that have been going on. And that's why this is where I invite you to focus more on meeting the needs during the quiet time, the conversations we have during our connection time, the conversations we have outside of these intense moments are the ones that are really going to determine what you do in the moment, okay? Because What I do in the moment is very different from what you will do in the moment based on what I have been doing outside of the moment. And what are some of the things I do outside of the moment? It's really just having conversations about what respect is, what disrespect is. Having conversations about this is actually what happens in your brain when you are triggered and being disrespectful. Do you know it's actually something that is happening in your brain? Shedding light to a teenager, then they begin to realize, and Wangari, you have those conversations with kids when they realize, hiya, when I was angry and talking badly, there was a lot of things happening physiologically. And if they're happening physiologically, what does that mean? That I actually have some control over them. Okay, it is during. So what can I do? What are some of the things that I can do when I'm feeling very angry? I don't know about you, but for most of us, when you really have deep conversations with our children, when you're calm and they are calm, they listen to you. They listen to you and they respond to you. Okay, we need to create more of those times so that we come up with a plan. When you're pushing back because you've been triggered, and we know now it's not because you're a bad child, but it's happening physiologically. What are some of the things you can do physiologically to slow you down? Okay, and that's when you point them out. I just, like what Jackie was saying, just breathe in and out, breathe in and out. The reason she's saying that is because they've had those conversations. Like when I'm highly triggered, really, what I need to do is to breathe in and out. But don't say, calm down. That's very dismissive also. And just say, you calm down. Okay. But what does that really mean? It's the discussions you're having outside of those moments. And as we are inviting you later into our conversation for the next couple of weeks, we'll kind of unpack for you what it really means, what kind of conversations, especially brain-based conversations, to have. All right, back to you, Wangari.
Amazing.
My goodness, I want to see more conversations in the chat as well. What are you people hearing? And what are you pushing back? We love those kinds of questions as well. Go back, Wangari.
Yes, I was just going to add on what you said and just say that there's something we really talk about here in Story Camp, is that when your child is having an emotional reaction from you, you can't meet it. You can't come with a logical solution to an emotional reaction. A child throwing a tantrum will not hear logic. At that moment, trying to explain to them that they are going to hurt themselves, or that you guys are in the supermarket, or you're going to leave them there, is really just going over their head. When our children are having emotional reactions, we need to connect with them emotionally, because this is what we talk about, and that's what Dr. Carr is inviting you to listen. The conversation about the brain and emotion, the two parts of the brain, the thinking part and the emotional part, sometimes they are not together. And so you're trying to bring thinking into an emotional state, and you wonder why there's even with your teenager, there's nothing that's happening, there's no response. Just again, the goldfish versus the shark, sometimes that's what you have to understand. Like when a shark is attacking you, you're not trying to explain to the shark that you're a great person who does not deserve to be eaten. No. That might not be so helpful in that moment. I saw somebody in the chat. We have already discussed sibling rivalry, but somebody in the chat did add something that I wanted to highlight, Dr. Caro. They said that she feels like her kids fight way more than other children. And in fact, she feels like when they grow up, they won't even be friends based off how they're already treating each other right now. And I feel like I wanted you to say something a little bit about that, because at first I wanted to send them a lot of love and just tell you first, there's this thing about parenting where we project to the future sometimes when we are rushing. We have so much time in between. We don't need to really panic and be like, oh, now they are adults, they hate each other. You have a lot of time. You have, even when they are 16, they can still learn certain behaviors that you think they should have learned at 6. But I'd really like Dr. Caro to maybe touch on that, not even on a sibling rivalry aspect, but on a panic aspect. What do I do when I'm feeling like, hey, it's over? The child has already been broken, Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and like Wangari, sending you hugs as well, because it's a very valid struggle. It's a very valid question. And again, like Wangari says, projecting it to the future actually escalates the situation, okay? Because we talk about in our sessions, what is in your cup? All right. And so if it is fear in your cup as a parent, if it is fear in your cup and anxiety in your cup, and probably it might not be your case, the person who asked that question might not be your case, but probably there's issues of you also not getting along well with your siblings, or your parents not getting along with their siblings. Okay. And so you've seen a lot of drama going on already in your space. And then when you see your children fighting, the first thing is, because all that is what is in your cup, it triggers, what comes out is panic, like Wangare says, panic, anxiety. And when we are in a state of panic, all we want to do is fix. Okay, all we want to do is fix. And how do we fix? We want to make them apologize to each other. We yell at them also. We make them be friends immediately. Or we also just, I mean, it just becomes chaotic. By the time you're done, you're like, so who was the adult here and who wasn't the adult here and all? And so what I'm inviting you is to process those fears, okay? To be able to separate them and to remember that at your fingertips, you can actually get just one thing, two things to help your children begin to bond with each other or develop the skills they need for conflict resolution. Childhood. Let us remember this, ladies and gentlemen. This is your opportunity to sow the seed. Don't judge your parenting by what it is you're seeing today. Don't judge the future of your parenting by the harvest, because it looks like a harvest that you're seeing today. Judge your parenting by the seeds you're sowing today. So my question is, what kind of seeds are you planting today? Okay, and are you sowing them in a nurturing environment, or is it filled with fear and anxiety? A lot of the things we do when we react have a lot to do with what is going on with us. And that's why in our sessions, again, the focus is on you first, working on yourself. Number one. Number two, the focus is on understanding the age-appropriate needs of your children and meeting them age-appropriately, not trying to get them to do things at 8, which is really meant for when they're 15 or 17. So specific tips depends on what's going on with you, but please let's pull out the principles. Let's pull out the principles.
All right. I see Halima has her hand up. Halima, just to give you a few minutes, please unmute yourself. Yeah.
Thank you very much, parents. All the questions are very valid. And I want to start by saying that parenting is a journey of becoming. We are becoming. You are not doing your worst. You are doing your best at your level. Maybe just a bit of fine-tuning things here and there, then you will feel good. And then another day, you will learn. Remember, Dr. Caro said, the more you know, the more you know you don't know. Therefore, as you are now planting the seeds, are you in the moment of, or are you in the season of harvesting or planting? Are we really too fast on judging the results, or we are trying to harvest while we are planting? Check the age of your children. It matters a lot. Whether the rivalry, the boys fighting all the time, girls fighting over a few things here and there, check their age. When you say gentle parenting and we say conscious parenting, what comes to your mind again? You have done, yes, gently. Then what is the gap? Then what is in your cup again? We will continue from there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Halima, for just even sharing. We also have some amazing stuff being said in the chat box. Let me read out some comments. They might not be questions, but let me read out some comments before we go to the next question. Somebody says, I think this is Sheila, says, amazing. It's not about policing the children, but in building a connection for which they can go around the gadgets of the TV. I think that's what they were trying to say. Jacqueline says, tips I'm getting are parenting requires you to be so self-aware. Children read our emotions. They mirror us when you're feeling angry and overwhelmed. They mirror it back. Also, lots of grace, constantly reminding yourself that you're also learning. In fact, when I read Jacqueline's comment, I wanted to say, not only requires you to be self-aware, it requires you to constantly just be. That self-awareness, it doesn't end. It's every day. It's every day. And the kids don't just mirror back negative emotions. They mirror back positive stuff as well. You show kindness, they show kindness. You're actually, Dr. Caro says this a lot in her sessions. When you're calm against a child who's very highly emotional, in fact, even you as an adult, try arguing with somebody who's calm. You find your voice starts to lower because it sometimes it's hard. It's really hard when you are yelling and the other person is being very calm and very composed. So that the mirroring goes for positive and negative emotion. Molly says, judge my parenting by the seeds I'm sowing today and think cautiousness in parenting. Dr. Caro, that is our preaching for the day. I think some people have already they've already finished the session by the time we're getting halfway there. Jules, I'm not sure what you meant. Maybe it was a comment on what was being said. And Jerry says, I'm really learning a lot on how to not deal with situations when I'm emotionally charged. Reevaluate myself. What seeds am I sowing? From that, Dr. Caro, I'd like to pull out a question, right? Okay, we keep talking about this whole being calm while we are dealing with situations. But here's a realistic question for me as a parent. What if I'm not? Okay, I've come home and the TV is broken. I'm not calm. I am super furious and I'm mad. What can I do right now? Right now that my hands are shaking. What's the tip for at this moment? Thank you.
Breathe. Breathe. Did you
Breathe.
hear?
Yes.
Yeah. I think, it's, let me just say this, huh? As long as the child, you don't abuse the child, as long as the child doesn't need to end up in hospital and it's extreme and all that, or in extremely traumatizing, you do what you need to do. Okay. And I know that may sound like, okay, what answer is that? It's because if I come home again and I found that a broken TV, I'm most likely not going to be triggered. Why? Because my situation is different. Because also I've been working on myself for a very long time. Because when you work on yourself for long, some of these things don't trigger you to the level of even wondering, what should I do? Okay, so it's just inviting us back to that when I'm really fully triggered, I can feel it in my body. And part of the things we do even here, some of our coaches are positive intelligence coaches, a lot of exercises to just build your mental muscles, like Liz can help you with that, building your mental muscles outside of the moment. Then you are actually able to access the calm part of your brain, even in the midst of something that is difficult. So we are not faking it. We are being realistic that before we work on ourselves, we'll do all those things. And even after we've worked on ourselves and gone away, we can still be triggered by something that we didn't even know could trigger us to that level. Sometimes trauma is stored in the brain and somewhere it's just triggered and you're like, I thought I had worked on this. Okay. So I think for me, because I don't want to give you what to do then, I would also invite you so much to have compassion on yourself for whatever it is you do in that moment. Have compassion on yourself, step back, figure out how could I have handled it differently? Okay, because you do what you need to do at that time based on your tools, okay, based on what has happened, what is happening in your life in that moment. But to what extent are you able to step back and reflect and say, you know what, I could have handled this differently? Okay, it is what you do after, for me, that is more important than what you do in the moment, because what you do after directs you, helps you make better decisions. Part of what you do after probably will be having a conversations. We call them repair conversations with our kids, sitting down and repairing with our children when we blow up on them. So honestly, we're not here to tell you show up calmly all the time. Show up as you, as real, so that you can learn from those intense moments. But please learn from them. That's what we're saying. Learn from them and do something about it as you go. Have repair conversations with your children. Tell them, my goodness, you know, when I came and the TV was broken and I know I say things I shouldn't have said, I'm having a hard time at work. 1, 2, 3 is going on without obviously going into details that might burden them. But just telling them, you know what, mommy was really triggered. Whatever word you will use that works for you guys, okay, was really angry because of this and that happening. So just inviting you to not focus so much on trying to do the perfect thing in the moment. And this, I'm also going to say, not just in our reaction, but in how we are handling the holidays. You know, sometimes things go so badly the previous holiday, you're like, next December, things will go so well. And then now you sit, you have this plan in your head, the way things will go well. What I am inviting you guys to do, and it's a little bit radical, is just hold those things. Even if your children spend a little bit more time on the screen, because you are working on yourself and you're doing the groundwork, and because you're doing all that, just extra, it's not going to damage their brain. All right? It is not going to damage your brain because they spend X amount of the time for this moment. What happens is, and when it comes to mental health issues and all that, we look at the frequency and the intensity, okay? And so if you decide that this is the holiday that I'm working on myself and figuring out and learning how to connect with my children and being like this, I'm focusing on relationship this season. I'm not focusing on number of times on the screen and all that, because if I focus on the relationship and I sow the seeds, trust me, by the time the holiday is over, you will already be influencing them in the things that you don't know. So let's, again, I'm just asking us to step down from tips and tools and strategies and go inward and go into the relationship. Jackie?
Broken things. This has reminded me, I think, of an incident. I was 9, and the next one I was 12 or 13. And I had volunteered to wash dishes that I was not supposed to wash. As an 7, 8-year-old. And I broke, in the process, my grandmother's favorite tea mug broke. My grandma was a typical mother of those days. So I spent my whole day, was it afternoon, crying because I was so sure I was going to be killed. There's nothing my little brain, I just saw I'm done. It was you know, the ones you can't hide because it was of a different color. It's what she used every morning. But when she came in the evening, I went and hid. And I think she was told I broke the cup. And she didn't even say anything about it. She was like, it's okay. Then a few years later, I was babysitting one of my nieces. And right on time in the evening before my aunt came in, the flask broke. You know, flasks were precious items in the house, and I didn't touch it. Something happened with the vacuum, and it just chose when she was coming up the stairs for me to hear it collapsing, and I'm like, I didn't touch it. And she just told me, things get broken, it's okay. So those are the things that, fast forward as a mother, and my daughter literally was swinging something and the TV broke. Those 2 incidents of my grandmother and my aunt played so much in my brain that I couldn't react. You know, I just remembered my auntie's voice saying, things get broken. So as you said, whatever reaction you come in the space in, be merciful and mindful of yourself. And if you can also extend grace, it has such a long-lasting effect on the child that you would never even imagine. So as Dr. Carol was saying, you worked on yourself. For me, it's because someone sowed those seeds of kindness. So when things get broken, my response is metered to the merciful side, and now I'm able to have a conversation. So whichever way, even if it's in the repair stage, to just understand that it's all not damaged, it will work out in the future for them extending the same grace, whether you've extended beforehand or in the repair stage, it will work. It will work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jackie. I think even when Dr. Kara was talking before, I was thinking, you know, the quote that says, man plans, God laughs. That's how it goes, right? For me, I think it's parents plan, children laugh. Because it applies in everything. You plan for the holiday, your children will surprise you. You plan for their future, you plan that your child will be a pilot, a doctor. Then your child turns around and tells you something shocking, like they want to be, I don't know, something else, you know? And I think that it can be very much applied in our parenting. It's a lot of those things that just come and really surprise us because we had such a massive plan and maybe we just need to focus on the here and the now and allowing for mistakes to happen and modeling making mistakes for our kids because we all make mistakes. We're human. Let's show them, like, you know, this happened and this is how you make up for it. Dr. Caro, the next questions, I'm going to put them together again. 2 questions. One person is asking, how do I teach my kids critical thinking? Another person is asking, how do I teach my children self-regulation? All these are definitely things we do here at Story Camp. And that's why I put them together. Maybe you can just tell us.
Yeah, good question. And just a quick plug. Wagara is a children's coach, and she actually is running sessions for kids now, one-on-one. She can come to your space and work with your kids and all that in all those emotional resilience kind of things. So reach out to us later if you would like a little bit more intense support. However, critical thinking and self-regulation, again, think about the part of the brain, okay? Think about the part of the brain that is in charge of critical thinking and emotional regulations. The most developed part in our children, the part of the brain in our children is the one that is in charge of emotions, like where emotions are processed, outbursts, tantrums, and all that. And then, of course, the brainstem. The brainstem is the one that is connected to the spine and sends information, receives information from the environment, and causes you to do those automatic things like breathing, flight, fight. Yes. So breathing, blinking, you know, those natural ones. So those ones are fully developed, even up by age 5, you know. Of course, the brainstem is fully developed by birth. And the other ones begin developing over time. So the emotional part, so the ones that cause our children to react, those ones, we don't even need to teach them. They come naturally because that's how we are wired. Why do we react? We react because we have seen danger. We are naturally wired to react to danger, to either fight or to flee, okay? But the things you're asking, emotional regulation, critical thinking, they are processed in the prefrontal cortex, okay? The part of the brain or the cortical brain, the part of the brain that really has not yet even started really working seriously, okay? Let's just say seriously from age 8. So if you see emotional regulation before 8, just, you know, hug your child and thank God. Go back and say, thank you, God, for giving me a child with this kind of temperament. A lot of these things we have to create the environment, and by first of all learning how to be calm and to be calm in their presence, to be empathetic, and also through modeling in their presence with them and also with other people. How do we teach emotional regulation? That is one, through modeling. Number 2, by helping children understand what's happening in their brain when they are triggered, when they are angry, because it sent them off into a flight response, or fight response. So again, back to just telling you, if you look at all this, even tantrums, because there were many questions about tantrums, if you look at tantrums as a physiological response to a perceived threat, then you realize, let's deal with this physiologically. We will have conversations later. Tantrums are not for nipping in the bud, okay? They are not for nipping in the bud that we want to no longer have tantrums by age 4. That is not fair. In fact, Tantrums reduce by age 4, not because you've been chapaying your children. It's because now they are developmentally better able to regulate their emotions at age 4, at age 8. It's because they are better able to do that, okay? So how do you teach them? Breathing exercises again, having what you are calling an emotional response to an emotional reaction, as opposed to trying to reason out with them. How do we teach critical thinking skills? By again giving through connection, but also giving them many options, okay, many choices, and helping them to talking them through making decisions, okay? But do not expect critical thinking to the level that your boss expects of you when you're interviewing for that job, that I have critical thinking skills. No, critical thinking skills are for later on in life, and we build them over time through connection. In fact, a child who is well loved, a child who feels connected, they make decisions automatically better. They're able to think critically better. Why? Because they're feeling secure. And when a child is feeling secure, they're able to make decisions and being able to even to push back from peer influence and things like that. Why? Because it's coming from a secure base, a feeling of security. I cannot overemphasize the importance of connection and relationships in teaching these wonderful, amazing things that we want to teach our kids.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Caro. And I think I just want to add on that, you mentioned to them that that's a program that we have currently running. And I think just like you said at this session, managing expectations is that even when you register your child for a program like the one we have here at Story Camp for teaching them critical thinking and self-regulation, we are not promising we're going to do a session and at the end of that session, your child will be able to solve national level problems or whatever. But what we are saying is we're able to set up the tools, the tips that you need to help them to continue to practice these things. Because as grown-ups, we are able to do critical thinking out of experience. It's because you have experienced so many things before that now when something happens, you know what the right choice is. And I want to give Liz an opportunity to say something, and then we have a question that builds on the question that we are on. Liz, please go ahead.
Thank you, Agari, and thank you, Dr. Kara. I just want to join, particularly what Dr. Kara you said around mental fitness, which is an area that I am coaching and I'm enjoying it and has been incredibly invaluable for me. And just talking about in the moment and what do you do in the moment, and then just what you just talked about brain physiology. Since we're all above 25, there's a presumption that we have failed. And so when we are actually doing what you talked about earlier, the breathing exercises, connection with our five senses, enabling our brain to focus of the way. It's you're also bringing your sort of, if you had a million thoughts about this child, I'm going to. And when you take those 3 deep breaths, you calm down and you're able to access that side of your brain that is going to help you do either any of these 5 things. About you're either going to offer empathy, which is the anchor for us as parents. It's sort of the main thing when you're parenting. You need to empathize with a child, or at that point, do you need to explore, what's going on? You're inquiring, you're trying to understand. And then next, is it innovation? What ideas do I have? How best do I? Should I buy another flask that doesn't break? Should we just not buy a flask at all? And then we go into now, that's just innovation. And then now we go into the activate, which is really the action itself. So there's a series of tools that when you're calm in mental fitness, you're equipped to access during your calm times. And during those calm times, the decision matrix becomes very, very clear for you. And the more you practice it with the different kids, depending on the age, there's a level of calmness and consistency in how you're making your own decisions and how you're helping your kids make these decisions. Because one of the things Dr. Caro talked about is when you parent from a place of fear, the kids sense the fear because in mental fitness, we do know now that that is the survival part of our brain, and therefore it mirrors or mirror neurons to the other person. So when you generate fear, they also come back with you with fear. And that's why you see when kids, when you shout, if it's a teenager, they're going to shout back at you or clench or do what they need to do. And therefore for you is to be able to then access that part of you that helps you to calm down very quickly in the 10 seconds. And then you can explore in your toolbox, what then do I need to do in this moment? And then again, we do know that in every situation, what we are trained or what generally we tend to understand is it's either success or a failure. So in parenting, we're seeing a child's behavior as success or a failure. But there's a third option, which, I would invite all of you to think through, which then says that every situation can be a gift or an opportunity. And I think as parents is when you see that there's a third way, then there's a lot of comfort and peace that you begin to draw when you have like 4 children and there are 4 scenarios and there are like multiple things going on. And then you can begin to step back and say, okay, is this situation, what gift or opportunity does this situation present me? And at that point, what's important is not to make that decision then, is to then go back to your tools, knowing that there's an opportunity or a gift for that situation, and then begin to unpack and know what then do I do about it. So that's what we do in mental fitness. We equip you or we support you or we work with you to work through those different ways of cutting across your relationships with the different kids of whatever ages. And that just helps you navigate through, regardless of what you have to work with. And you yourself, as the more you practice it, the more you realize that it's drawing peace on you, because then you're becoming more positive, and the kids are also drawing that positivity from you. And that's why we call it positive intelligence coaching / mental fitness. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Liz, for sharing with us that insightful bit, especially about positive intelligence. And I also thought it was important to come and just mention that we are able to explain things like self-regulation in very simple languages for kids of the different ages. In fact, a very important tool that we give the younger kids is we give the parts of our brain characters so that they can be able to visualize how it works when they are having an intense moment, and therefore use those visualizations to help themselves calm down. For example, when we are talking about brain science, just a quick example would be one of the characters that we usually have is Bossy Bob. Now, Bob is just bossy. That's it. He just tells you you're angry. He screams, we are angry. If you're sad, body works. But even somebody just coming to you when you're angry and telling you, oh, just helps you to better access the tools that you need to calm down, to make better choices, or to even empathize with other people. And that's something we definitely teach the kids. Dr. Carol, next question.
And just to say, before you even ask that question, that even if they don't engage with us directly, there are still very simple tips that they can help with they can work with their children, just as simple as breathing in and out, and still just point you to YouTube and check how to help a child, and how to help your child understand about their brain and emotion. There's so many amazing resources that you can get there. And we don't want to be the hoarders of everything. We're just telling you that you want a little bit more intense support that will help you in the long term. We are here, and we have amazing coaches who are qualified to support you. Go back.
All right. Thank you so much. So one of the questions that we can go through is, how do we support our children when we are going through tough times as a family? For example, going through divorce or separation, maybe loss of one of the parents, change of financial status. I'm trying to put a lot of the questions that we have a bit together, but basically a lot of these people, the seasons are different, but the question is, how do I support my child through difficult seasons? How do I have difficult conversations about having no money, or the fact that me and dad are not together anymore, or we have to live in separate homes?
For me, I would ask for each of those situations is, how do you explain your situation to yourself? Okay. Where are you at in figuring it out? Don't be in a rush to communicate it to your children, because most of the time it will be laced with some of the negative emotions that may not really be helpful. And I'm not saying that at all times when you have the conversation, you'll be in a calm place and not spew a little bit of the negativity. We're human. But hard to say this is the reason why we're having financial issues, or this is the reason why your dad and I are not together anymore, and all that. But to what extent can you settle into some reason for yourself? And so I usually say, take your time. What's the rush? But the real issues, right, sometimes it's that we don't have those conversations at all. And then we are making decisions and our kids don't know what is happening. So there could be those two extremes. When you want to talk about it too fast, before even you're ready to even figure it yourself out. Like, if I was just to give an explanation for myself about the decision I'm making now, what would it be? So at least to some level, get to that space. Don't be in a hurry to have conversations with your children, but also don't extend it too far and just be quiet. You woke up one morning and you moved into a smaller house and you have not told the kids. Or you woke up one morning and, daddy was gone and he's not coming back anymore. And you're just nganganaying with life because things are difficult. Okay? Just remember that the more you don't have those conversations, the more they start making stuff up for themselves. And a lot of that stuff they're making up for themselves has to do with blaming themselves. Okay? And they will own it, because we are not wired to look at our parents as weak or people who don't have it together. So the most natural thing for a child to do is turn it inward and say and blame themselves without even knowing. And there starts issues of self-esteem, issues of depression, issues of self-blames, issues of criticizing themselves, or they go out there and bully others because they're hurting inside. So really just figure it out fast for yourself. To what extent should I be saying, you know what, mommy and daddy, we're not getting along very well, and so decided to take a break. Keep it that way, okay? Again, don't give too much information. And for the most part, children don't really ask a lot of questions if you give a simple explanation in a simple way, okay? And leave it at that. So don't feel the need also of oversharing too much information. Work on yourself, find your own healing, find that space of being safe and comfortable, and involve community as well, okay? Get other people who probably have been down that road and have handled it a certain way, or get a coach, get a therapist, get a mental fitness coach to be able to just support you into how to have those conversations.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Caro. And I think I wanted to add some advice you've ever given me before, which is stop judging yourself. A lot of times, I had to have these conversations with our kids because we're judging ourselves. You're judging yourself because now you're not together with the father. You're judging yourself that you're not in the same financial position that you were before. And you carry that judgment to your kids. You assume that that's how they're seeing you too. They're seeing you from that light that you're holding yourself of like a failure or whatever. A lot of times they just don't know what's going on. They're looking to you as they grow up in their life to tell them. And it's not even from a place of judgment. So I think, again, it just comes to forgive yourself, allow yourself to just accept that sometimes sad things or unfortunate things happen to amazing people, and it doesn't change like who you are. Halima, please share something with us on the same.
Yes, thank you very much. This can be a bit difficult moment for the parent or for the caregiver himself or herself, because it is only when you are calm and stable that you can pass communication effectively or information effectively. Just like Dr. Caro said, be stable yourself and courageous enough for that matter. When you are stable enough, you are courageous. Keep conflict away from the kid, especially if it is a disagreement between the two parents. Keep away this child. Avoid totally blaming the other side. Remember, if it is a father, this person will still remain father to this child. If it is a mother, the person will remain the mother to this child forever, regardless of what. Then, when you break such news to the child, it may be a little difficult and take time for the child to understand and adjust to this particular situation. So be patient and consistent with your child, because remember, you are the only source maybe that can support your child. Be there and comfort the child consistently. Thank you. Hello?
Sure.
Yes, Dr. Caro. Okay. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much, Halima, for that. That was some amazing tidbits of like how to just overcome that moment, even for you as a parent. Dr. Caro, can I go to the next question?
I'm muted.
You're muted.
Yes. Now, can we take a commercial break? I just go through what it is I wanted to share and then go back now to the next set of questions. What I'm asking is that we stay in, keep it here, or do you want to ask a question first before I go there? What do you think?
Actually, the next question was, what programs do you have specifically for me and how much do they cost? So I think that would be the best time. There's a specific question asking for the cost and what programs we have. So maybe just tell us about that. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right. So we have several programs. We just want to invite you to the one that we are offering right away that is ready and set. Of course, we talked about what Wangari is already doing with coaching and some of the things she's doing with the kids. Reach out to us if you want one-on-one coaching with your kids, or even them as siblings or a group of kids in your space. She will come to your space and we provide that coaching. But I want to invite you to a special program that we are having that is something that will really help you, because a lot of the issues are around discipline. How do I get my child to do this? How do I get my child to do that? And so I want to just let you know that Number one, let me just give you an idea of how we see discipline. Discipline for us is not that thing that you do to get your child to behave well and do better and change their behavior. I hope by now you realize we're not about fixing a behavior. And so discipline is everything that you do as a parent or a teacher or a caregiver consciously. We've talked about conscious parenting. What you do consciously, who you are consciously, and what you do intentionally. So those two things. It's not about timeout or chapa or what do you do when you're triggered and all that. But what are you cultivating on an everyday basis to provide a conducive environment for a child? Okay, and so we have a package for you that we are inviting you to as you handle all these things and you're working on yourself, is to ask you, are you ready to become a conscious? We've talked about being conscious, we've talked about being compassionate, being connected to your children, being consistent, and finally showing up with confidence. We've said confidently navigating the holidays. And so we have a 5-part series of already recorded sessions on conscious, compassionate, connected, and consistent discipline, which are actually 5 sessions. And today was the first session, the live QA. We will share this recording with everyone. However, it's actually, this is not the first session. We already have a session that is called conscious discipline. The first session is called conscious discipline. And conscious discipline, basically, let me just show you one by one so that now we can really get it. Conscious discipline is already recorded. It's free. That's available to everyone. If you want to sample it to see if you want to figure out to pick up the next 4, you can do that. And basically we talk about unpacking myths about discipline. What is discipline? What it's not. We talk about the discipline strategies that we use. We unpack spanking, we unpack withdrawal of privileges, things that you are actually using already in your spaces and asking, why are they not working or why are they working? We really go in depth about spanking, and we just talk about what does research say? What is my experience as a parent coach and therapist in that space? And what do we recommend as TAWI? Okay, and so that video is available to everyone. It's on our YouTube channel, and we will share it alongside the email that you'll be getting from us. Part 2, 3, 4, and 5 are the ones that we are packaging and we are selling them to you. We are offering them to you. And part 2, it talks about compassionate discipline. And we really want to be able to understand all these conversations we are having about the brain. We have a deep dive into the reasons behind misbehavior. Why do children misbehave? What is developmentally appropriate? What is happening in the brain of a 2-year-old when they're having a tantrum? What is happening in the brain of a 15-year-old when they are pushing back because you have taken away a device from them and they're acting disrespectfully? Just to help us understand so that we're able to come alongside our children, okay? A place we look at our children's behaviors from a place of compassion and know that mostly misbehavior is from a place of lack of communication. It's communicating something. So what are these needs that these children have? And then the third part is what we call connected discipline. And a lot of the questions we've been asking in the chat box, and also the ones that you send, how do I connect with my daughter? How do I connect with my son? What are some of the things that I can do to be able to influence? There's, I think, a question by Wairimo, how do I teach my child not to be so consumer focused? You actually have those conversations in the place of connection. And from a place of connection, our children are able to really respond to us better. Okay, so this session focuses on building strong, healthy connections with your children while you still maintain and teach them and maintain a voice of influence. We teach you how to hold space. Those shocking things that they tell you, what can you do? How do you show up in a way that it's still connecting, okay, but you're able to also speak into their space. We have conversations that help us to really connect with our children better. Part 4 is what we call consistent discipline. And this is where the real deal is, okay? What skills? We've been talking about our children are lacking skills. What skills are they lacking? So we teach you how to identify the skills that they are lacking. Then we teach you how to train those skills, because a misbehaving child is an untrained child. And when I say an untrained child, it's not from a place of judgment, because people get triggered when they hear that a misbehaving child is an untrained child. But it's because it's a child who just needs to be trained, okay? There's a way that the school is set up that helps training work very effectively. We take that and we help you, we give you the tools to create an environment so that you're able to train those things over time. We also now teach you how to set consequences in a calm way, consequences that are clear, and implement them in a way that is consistent. Okay, by the time you're done, in fact, some of the feedback we are getting from these sessions is that, my goodness, now I need to sit down now and start. It's like I went through a whole diploma course. Now it's my job to begin to work. It's like my toolbox is so full. Now Wachani and Chanen are asking for more information. Let me begin to implement, because we really give you a lot of tools on how to, all these conversations, questions we're having about the screen and all that, how do we train and how do we set consequences that are clear, and how do we implement them in a way that is consistent? And then the last part, which has a lot to do with you and how you show up. How do you deal with pushback? How do you deal with power struggles? How do you show up in a way that you are showing up as the stable adult, like Halima was saying? We give you tools on how to show up. This last question, that last session is really about you. So we give you 3 very clear strategies in showing up from a place of self-awareness, from a place of self-care, from a place of self-compassion. And then we bring session. So my invitation is to ask you if you are ready to transform your parenting journey. Okay. And I hope you are. Maybe just see how many yeses are there. Can we see the yeses? Are you ready to transform your parenting journey and build a healthy connection with your child? I can only see 2 which are already there. Let's see the yeses. Let's see. Okay. All right. We're ready. I hope that makes sense. This is how it looks like in a full picture. All right. Again, the first session is conscious discipline is free. You will get it. The second one is really coming from a place of compassion. The third one coming from a place of connection. Okay, knowing how to connect, because our children respond to us better when they feel connected to us. Number 4, how to be consistent. We struggle with consistency. How do we then become consistent and not keep making those mistakes? But number 5, it pulls it back to you. Okay, how do I continue to show up so that even when I'm not consistent, I can give myself grace? Okay, how do I do that? So with all those yeses, then I just want to invite you to consider buying or getting this, investing in this course, 5 series masterclass. We will send you all the 5 recordings, but we'll be releasing them week by week. So that's another thing that I need you to understand. We'll be releasing them week by week. So the first one, we'll release it on 12th, which is on a Tuesday, and you will have it all the way for a whole week until Monday. Then we release the next one on 19th. We release the next one on 26th, and the final one on 3rd, and you will be having it. So you get it on a Monday until the next Monday, from Monday until the next Monday. So we have a fast flash sale price that we have actually different levels of pricing. Let me just put them all together. 5,500, which will expire at midnight today. Then we have a second flash sale, which will expire, I think, after a week. And then by the time we open it up on 12, it will be open now at the regular price, a regular price of 8,000. So whether or not you're going to purchase this, everybody who has attended this session will get an entire chapter from our book. We have a book, Parenting with Your Heart in Mind. You get a whole chapter called The Parable of the Poster Child. Amazing, amazing. Just looking at how we view our children, and we have an image of our children that is not really there because we want them to be that. And so releasing you to start looking at your children not as the poster child that you wish they had. And so it's a very self-reflective journey. So whether you engage with the content on conscious discipline or not, because you attended this session, you will get an entire chapter and we will email that to you. Okay, and you will get it in the next 24 hours. However, if you would like to take advantage of this session within this time that we are here. So this is actually expiring at the end of this call. If you have 5,000 and you want to be able to take advantage of this sale that we are having, so we'll extend this session for as long as you want until you go and collect what you need to collect so that you're able to pay the 5,000 and take advantage of what we have. So remember, after the call ends, it will go to 5,500 until midnight today. And then we have, so let me just show you again what the other prices are. 5,500 expires tonight. Second flash sales expires on Monday, 11, and the regular price checks in from 12th November. However, again, you would like to take advantage of it, please go ahead and fill out the form that I hope Hire or somebody, Hire or Naomi, I don't know if Naomi is here to be able to put in, fill it out, or just make a payment right now. Take a screenshot, because I want to put this down because we want to go back to continue with the questions and answers. Okay, so again, take a screenshot of this, take your time, pay as we continue. And from now on, I would really wish that we continue with the conversation for another 30 minutes or so. But if you feel that you need to drop off, feel free to do that. But we'd really, really like to continue having this conversation with you all the way until 8:30. All right. So, and then also in this space right now, you also feel free to ask questions concerning the course, concerning the offering that we have. All right. Okay, Wangari, let's kick it back to conversations.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Caro. You know, you have given them a free gift of the parable of the poster child, and somebody in the chat box had actually said that, I'm trying to see that statement. I am being reminded to accept the child in front of me and not the imaginary one that I thought I would have. How amazing is that? The gift has really aligned.
Yeah.
And yeah, amazing, amazing. I really hope you guys can take advantage of that amazing offer that we've been given, even as we continue to answer more and more of your questions, even for the parents here who are maybe confident in the discipline, but you need to work on consistency. It's been really broken down into just our specific points of need. Now, I want us to start off with a bit of a heavy question. And I want to put it together, obviously, just because I would like us to give an answer before time runs out for the 50 of us who are still here before we leave. And this is an important question, and I know a lot of parents have it. How do I handle conversations? I'm going to put them into 3. How do I handle conversations with my children with around 1, social media, and all the fears and the dangers that come with being on social media? 2, drugs. 3, pornographic content.
Yeah.
These are some very heavy topics.
Yeah.
I remember growing up, they were taboo topics.
Right.
In fact, unless you are caught doing one of the 3 things, there was really no conversation around it. There was no conversations around how to healthy way to navigate social media, pornography, or even drugs. And this is a very huge reality of the society we currently live in.
Right.
What would you tell these parents here? Yeah.
Is there someone who's unmuted? Maybe you can mute them as I address that. I think, and I want to pick up from what you have just said, Wangari. Unless you found yourself in those things, that's when we had conversations. But the reality is, even then, we didn't have conversations. We had reactions. Okay, there was drama, all right? And that's what we have carried. That's what we have carried in our spaces. So let's acknowledge those are heavy topics, number 1. Number 2, let's acknowledge that we really don't have sufficient information, number 2. And number 3, it is okay. Okay? Maybe someone can just respond for Brina asking what is 5,000 in dollars. Someone can do a calculation. Roughly 50, but we'll get a little bit more, $50. Okay, let me go back. I don't want to be the one answering the questions. Can we acknowledge that it is okay that it's a heavy topic? Nobody is ever caught ready, especially when something happens. The only way you can get ready is to look for information. But for the most part, because we're not ready, we're not prepared, we haven't been proactive for all the good reasons, let us acknowledge that this is going to be a heavy space for us. And that is okay. I think that's the first thing. Let's normalize the heaviness and the difficulty and the discomfort around these conversations. Okay. And so number two, then knowing that we know that it's difficult and we need to have those conversations. Can we just also acknowledge that we don't have all the information in one conversation? You can't. This is not a quick one talk on any of those conversations. Okay. You tell them what you know. You ask them what they know. Okay. And those conversations will be different depending on what has happened. Sometimes you'll be caught flat-footed, something has happened, and that's when you need to have conversations. That's not when now you start bringing all the aunties and uncles to come. Go and talk to so-and-so, going to talk to so-and-so, because that isolates them even more. It is okay to just tell your child, you know what? I actually don't know what to do about this right now. Just give me time to figure out what kind of conversation I need to have with you, if it is a crisis that you are dealing with. But if it's not a crisis you're dealing with, then go into it, small moments, age appropriately. Small doses of things, age appropriately, while not thinking that you have to have all those conversations at once. I don't know if you want to ask me to be more specific, or does that make sense? Because I've just really talked about the general principles around that.
No, I mean, I think which is what we can really do at this moment with a lot of these topics, is to just start off with the general principles. So I think that was a great answer. Because what you said is true. Sometimes we are not the experts in some of these conversations, and we can only tell our kids the much that we know. But I just think the reassurance is just let it be possible for these conversations to be had, so that even when they have questions, they are comfortable to come to you. I think a lot of times...
No, finish.
Sorry. A lot of times there's a lot of shame when it comes to things, especially about sex or drugs. There's a lot of shame, especially where maybe there's a little bit of mirroring, unfortunately, and I just feel like releasing yourself from that shame and acknowledging that I personally feel like the most important thing is for my daughter to go into this world armed with information. Because growing up, that was where I felt the deficit. Sometimes you don't have the right information. Sometimes we really lie to our kids, and then they grow up and they learn, especially when it comes to things about sex and drugs, we really lie. Right. We lie, we say that people don't do drugs, and the people who do drugs they don't get jobs, or they are mad, and then they become teenagers and they meet functional adults who are doing drugs or making certain decisions that are, and now what you said is no longer, I think Dr. Caro, you said this in one of the first parenting classes. You said that if you don't present facts, once the kids get to the place where, and I think maybe you can tell us about that fact point, because it really touches on this topic. Yeah.
Thanks for bringing it up, because I wanted to chime in with that. Okay. Most of the time when we're having these conversations, we go the values way, this is right, this is wrong, these are our family values and all that. Then we forget about the facts. So we really need to merge and integrate the facts and the values, because, and especially as our children get older, they just feel respected when you use facts. And you know what? They also deserve some level of respect. You don't just say because I say so, or because, just a very things that you believe in. but they really just don't sit well at that moment with them. So it's important that you actually get the facts right. And so when it comes to drugs, when it comes to sex, you know, just talking about the brain development again, the brain not being prepared for some of these interactions, for some, the level of the relationships they are getting in, the fact that clearly research shows that getting involved in sexual activity early is related to higher levels of depression and anxiety. You know, something as simple as that. And the same with the drugs. You know what? Your brain is not ready for that right now. And you say 1, 2, 3, 4. Give those facts, drop them, those nuggets of facts. And if you don't have them, look, there's lots of good information online. We could point you out there. If you need a little bit more, again, we can have conversations around that on how to support you to have those conversations. When it comes to social media, this is what I will say. When it comes to social media, what I've seen work is having conversations around self-awareness, okay? Helping children develop self-awareness around social media use. And I want you to take this because it's something we miss, okay? When you talk about developing self-awareness around social media use, it's talking about how hard it is to get off social media. Man, it's hard. You know, you post something, like it's from a place of compassion and something, how many more likes. And then you just tell your child, it's hard. Hard not to, right? It's hard to, those conversations you have from, you know what? Yeah. Talk about those emotions from a place of coming own experiences. Talk about your own experiences, about how hard it is, about how exciting it is to find 16 likes just in a minute when you have posted something. Man, that is thrilling. That's what's going on with them as well. When you have those conversations from a place of self-awareness, they actually, again, like we're saying with the brain conversations, they begin to step back. Oh, so this is what is going on. Oh, so it really, I have some control over this, okay? And then beginning to talk about, like me, some of the conversations, and they are real for me, I have with my son is, my goodness, I watched Netflix for so long, for so many hours, and I'm just feeling my head is heavy. That's not a good decision I made. Just by saying that, I have triggered him to start having those conversations of, man, I didn't make the right decision yesterday. And this is how I am feeling today about it, because those things are directly related. But if we don't invite those conversations and we're just about rules and rules and rules, then they don't get to be more self-reflecting. Did someone ask how we develop critical thinking in our children? That's one of the ways. By using your own experiences, by helping them talk through their thoughts, talk through their emotions, talk through their processes to be able to develop that. And you can have that conversation around social media, around drugs, around sexuality, around relationships, just how hard it is to say no to peers. My goodness, I know it will be hard for you because this and that. Preempt them. Normalize the fact that these things are difficult before you throw in your rules. So developing self-awareness around that is very key.
Amazing. You know, personally, there I have my testimony because I was really struggling to figure out how to have those types of conversations with my child. And I remember when I asked Dr. Kara about it, and she told me to focus on the brain of it all, it became very easy, by the way, to now discuss the drugs or the pornography because the brains are facts. You know, I'm not trying to come up with my own little stories to justify it. And Dr. Kara, I just wanted to highlight that when a lot of times when we want to talk to our kids about social media, we talk about the addiction and the image issues that come up with it. But sometimes we forget a lot to talk about issues with colorism that do come up because now your kids are being exposed on a global scale where now people are black versus white versus brown. And we are also dealing with fake news, abductions. There's a lot of other things to be concerned about that might actually not affect our kids in a very direct aspect. You know, it's not like doing drugs and then they come home and you know they've done drugs and now you can deal with it. How do you, if you don't have those conversations, you never know that your child is being even bullied online because they are not even aware that conversations about the differences in maybe skin color or all those kinds of things can really also show up. I guess it's also just not always attacking those, especially those three topics from a negative side, you know, like just a wholesome view of it all and not always, it's very bad. Also try to see what, like what Dr. Caro said, some positives. Social media keeps you up with your friends, you know, so for a lot of Gen Z millennials, that's where we get news. So, you know, that's amazing. So, Dr. Caro, the next question, my favorite question is, how do we have meaningful conversations with toddlers? And I'm going to give you a chance to say something about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one is to know that at age 2, language is not their main way of communication. So can we release that, you know? Because I know there's this meaningful or stimulating conversations. Can we release the need to have words conversations? Because at that point, their major mode of communicating and expressing emotions is through play. Just play. You don't have to have conversations, just play. Okay, go down, do fantasy play and all that. And then as you're doing that, you speak. They'll just learn, they'll soak it in. Okay, so don't put pressure on yourself. And sometimes I also see, you know, sometimes we tell kids, use your words. And they're 2 or 3. I'm like, where do they get the words? Okay, developmentally release the need. And I know that question was asked. And if you need to rephrase that question, maybe ask, I don't know what else you are asking there, but in terms of just having meaningful conversations with toddlers, let's release that. Let us use play and symbolism as much as possible, because that's the best way they learn. And that's how the best way they even regulate well, through play and those activities of fantasy.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think the reason I was so excited about this question is because I think I spend my days a lot trying to translate conversations that are very easy for adults to have and how to have them with kids. And the younger the kids, sometimes the better the conversations. And I also wanted to say, you know, those conversations about the dolls are meaningful conversations. Sometimes the dolls are either being mean to each other or something, and that in itself is a meaningful conversation. Even talking about the carrots that they are eating is a meaningful conversation. You have an opportunity to highlight stuff about different textures, different tastes, and where things come from. I think those are meaningful conversations with toddlers. They don't have to be PhD level. You know, we are all trying to have a baby genius in our lives, and you want to talk to your child about some serious issues. You want your child to be that child who knows all the governors for each county. Let's release that poster child. Accept the child that we have. Your child is obsessed with carrots. Talk about them. Talk about them. What color are they? Where do they come from? Where are they good for us? You know what I mean? So I think just accept that whatever conversations they're bringing to you are meaningful to them. In their little brains, that's a very meaningful conversation, you know? And even just asking them how they feel also really prepares them to now know how to use their words in the future when you really need them to. Amazing.
And not asking them how they feel, but also where they are feeling it. Because our emotions, we feel them in the body first. So where is it? Where you feel? Where are you feeling? Where are you feeling sadness? Here. Okay, that's one way of teaching children to also emotionally regulate.
Amazing. This is another one of those questions where I just want to hug the person who sent it, because I really feel from where they're coming from. And the question is, how do I connect with my children so that they can consider me a safe space, knowing that I have already traumatized them in some way? This is a question that represents a group of parents who feel like, okay, I already abused my child or beat them beyond the way I'm supposed to be, or all those bad things that you could possibly happen. How do I recover? How do I repair the relationship and go back to being a stable adult that they trust? Thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, we have these conversations a lot, and I think we especially as coaches, each of us probably has an answer for this. But bottom line is, number one, it's never too late to start now. Whatever it is you need to do to build and to create the right environment for your child. Number two, I think sometimes we overuse the word trauma. And so once you just say trauma, you just feel broken, damaged, irreversible. Okay, so can we release that and just say something like, I did make mistakes, they have had some level of effect, but don't judge your parenting by what you're seeing today, judge it by the seeds that you're sowing. So begin to do the work. How to do you create a space, a safe space for your children? Be a safe space for yourself first. How harsh are you about the mistakes you have made? To what extent are you going to start beginning to be compassionate and to forgive yourself and to be able to just look, I did what I did with the tools I had, and here I am. I am here and I'm ready to make it right. Remember, you still have childhood is the opportunity to sow this seed. It is never too late to start doing the work today. Okay, it is never too late. I hope you can live with that level of hope. And again, we have plenty of resources that we can support you with, including even the parenting class that we have, which we'll have sometime next year, but also the Conscious Discipline Masterclass has a lot of actually connected discipline, which is session 3, talks about the many different ways you can create a space to connect and to reconnect with your children. So it's never too late, and you can always start from somewhere.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Caro. I think this next set of questions are all in that category of parents I would like to hug. And this next one, especially because I feel like I have been where they are. And hey, it's not an easy place to be asking. And the question is, how do I control the friends that my child wants to hang out with? How can I be in control of the kinds of friends or whoever it is that my child is spending their time with?
Is it a set? You want to ask as a set or one by one like that? I'm also looking at the time.
Yes, I feel okay. I feel like that one can stand on its own. I will join the rest of them.
All right. How do I control the set of friends that control the friends that my child has? Okay. I think number one, for me, I always get uncomfortable with the word control, because at whatever age you cannot control your child. And so because words have power, they create a certain mindset. And therefore, if that is what you want to do, or maybe it's something else, you are just using the word control, but it kind of still just puts you in a place of being up here and directing and making all the decisions. And we talk about farmer parenting as opposed to carpenter parenting. We're not here to fix our children or to pour all our values without their say or anything like that. We need to learn how to create an environment to cultivate our children to want to respond to us. Okay, and so take a step back and realize you cannot control, but you can influence your children and your child, and you can influence them over time, and you will influence them for sure from a place of connection. Our children respond to us better when they feel connected to us. That becomes our bottom line question when it comes to how do I influence my children? And then now you go back to, okay, there are these friends. What is it about these friends? What is it about your perception about these friends? What are you bringing into this space about those kinds of friends? Maybe you have a past experience as you were young about certain kind of certain groups. In that moment, are you bringing your own issues and your own fears into that space? How much do you know about these friends? How much have you asked about them? What is it that you don't like about them? Maybe you have an answer and you're like, absolutely no. These are not the kind of children that I want to hang out with my child. So from a place of connection, have conversations about your values. Help them understand. Also, like, remember when I said self-awareness conversations when it comes to social media? Let's have self-awareness conversations when it comes to friends, because it's the same thing. It's about a sense of belonging. Let them help them. Hold space. We have a skill called holding space, okay? Hold space and let them talk about how difficult it is not to be part of that group. And you just sit and listen and empathize. My goodness, it's hard. It's hard to feel rejected. It's hard. I wish even I had a solution for you. Right now, I don't. Let me just sit and listen to you. Hold space for conversation. Don't come in with rules of do's and don'ts. You can't see these friends. No. Invite a space of conversations, of connection, of self-awareness. Let them talk about what it is they are getting from these friends. Have a session when all they're saying is about how wonderful it would be to be part of that group, without you even ending that conversation by saying, I say no. Just like, I'm seeking to understand. Help me understand. And then from that place, because they're feeling more connected and pulled to you, for sure, they'll be able to listen to you more. When we talk about conscious connection in our sessions, we talk about the fact that when we are connecting with our children, oxytocin is produced. You know that hormone, which is the bonding hormone? And what the bonding hormone does, it makes us more generous and more cooperative with one another. I mean, you want to create moments when a lot of oxytocin is produced. And that's why for me, I come back to, in this holiday, if all you do is figure out how to connect with your children, you will have done enough. Okay? You want to cultivate conscious connection as much as possible. Your children will just start responding to you. And I know many of us even here have been through these programs and these sessions. We realize that sometimes we find ourselves having another level of influence over our children, and you're like, oh, wow, he actually agreed to do that, or she actually agreed to do that. Why? Because you've been cultivating and investing in that connection.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sakara, for that. And I also wanted to point out the fact that we have to prepare our kids to survive in the world without us. And the world without us involves bad friends, bad or like the wrong types of friends. And it's not that in every situation you will not be able to remove them from the situation. So maybe also let's open up to teaching our kids how to live with people who have different values, different morals, or have been raised from different families. I remember one of the parents in the champions class has ever told me something about friends. And she said, you know how in Story Camp we talk about being the stable adult that your child needs? Sometimes you are the stable adult that their friend needs. And maybe they don't have that at home. And allowing them to be friends is able to then expose this other. Sometimes this come with empathy. Some of these kids are struggling not because they are bad kids, but maybe just they don't have somebody who's trying to model better behavior for them. So let's open up and allow to teach children who are not just ours, because they do come in the end and influence our children. Amazing. Dr. Sakara, I want to bundle up the next group of single parents, but others coming from even parents all together. But the question generally is coming around work-life balance and connection. How do I connect with my kids when I'm exhausted, when there's a lot going on? I don't seem to have the time. I work a lot. How do I still know that I can connect with my kids, or I can find good things for them to do, knowing that I can't necessarily be super present, or maybe I'm just super exhausted and I'm not. My 4-year-old keeps asking me to play, and every time I want to sleep, and now I'm just feeling a little bit bad about myself because, why am I never available to play with them?
Yeah. And I think there was also a number of questions of how do I keep them busy? How do I keep them from not getting bored? We sort of have put it on ourselves to be our children's entertainers, and there's all this information about I'm not able to balance and all that. And I think first of all is to realize the world that we are in is different, and therefore the ideal way of spending time, quality time or quantity time with your children, may not really be realistic within our busy schedules. So what do you do then? Stop beating yourself up because your child wants to be playful and jump up all the time. Just carve out special time. We talk about it again. Time for connection, and make sure that the time you are with them, if it's 10 minutes or 15 minutes, you are fully present. That doesn't mean that they will stop asking you for your time. during other times. But just remember, if I commit to this consistently to this child, the little time that I have to connect when I'm fully present, it is enough. Whether the child is demanding of it or not, it is enough, okay? Because research is also telling, in fact, it says 10 minutes of consistently playing with your children in a way that is consistent, but you are fully present. That is physically fully present, but emotionally also present. The things that are happening, again, here comes the brain. The things that are happening physiologically when you're connecting with your child fully present, they go way deeper than we are able to see tangibly. Again, don't judge by what you see, judge by the seeds that you're sowing. So carve out conscious connection with each of your children individually. It doesn't have to be every day, it doesn't have to be every week, but as long as this child knows this is my time with mommy and daddy, that is enough, and that should be enough. The rest of the time when they're pushing and they're crying, it's on you to learn how to draw boundaries. It's on you to learn to say no. It's on you to be okay with them sitting there and crying because you didn't do it, and you're moving on to other things. You've got to be comfortable with the crying. You've got to be comfortable with them pushing back when you say no, for your own sanity, because you're a busy mom, you're a busy dad, okay? Just remember that you can carve out that time. But also, again, this is where community comes in, right? Okay? Let's reach out to our neighbors that we don't see, that we don't talk to, and just get to know a little bit more about them. Wangare, you're laughing because that's a challenge I know you have been experiencing. You never know what your neighbor next door, we also are raised to be very, very suspicious. And if it's not your neighbor next door, please, community, let's take advantage of community, sisters, siblings, or cousins, or friends, but let's not underestimate the power of community and asking for help. Ask for help. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, as a parent who personally really struggles with asking for help, I really feel what you've said. I mean, it feels like asking my neighbor to put an eye out for my daughter is asking for absolutely too much. I don't know why, but I guess it's what you said. We have to learn how to be comfortable with uncomfortable things, and a lot of uncomfortable things sometimes is also just the things we compare for ourselves. That one for you're not, it's not even so much your child, but you're comparing the way so and so's mom drops them off at school every day, but you're never there to drop your kid off. I mean, accepting your reality might be different from other parents, but it doesn't really take away from the impact that you are having on your children. Now, as we are already at the time where we promised to finish. I would like to point out that feel free to stay on. If you have more questions, please share them in the chat box. If you feel like you have to leave, it has been such an honor to have you guys here. I hope you're leaving with something in the bag, even if it is just our number. But I am really hoping that you're leaving with something, you're feeling replenished, you're feeling like we're really speaking your language. Karibu sana to this community of ours, and we hope to do another Q&A again sometime soon, just to answer any more questions. But if you feel like I've missed out on a question that you have, this is the moment to put it in the chat box, maybe raise your hand. Let's hear what you have to say. So I have a few more other questions. One question, and I think this is a really important one, just before we lose too many people. How do I show love to the middle children? How do I make sure that each of my children, for those parents who have more than one child, feel like they have been loved, they have been given attention? Because a lot of times there's usually sometimes that whole, this parent seems to have these favorites, but how can I just make my children equally feel loved and accepted?
Okay, and as I answer that question, and I know people will begin to leave and drop off, we actually are done, by the way, so feel free to leave. But I would really like to hear your feedback, to hear your thoughts, to hear what it is you've learned. So maybe just finish up by saying what I now know. What is this one thing that you have learned? And if you feel that your question has not been addressed, like Wangare says, you can raise your hand and unmute, or put it in the chat and say, this one of mine, okay? Please answer. So I think that has been sufficient. That question, I would believe, has been sufficiently covered by saying, spend one-on-one time with each of your children when they know this is mommy and Emma time. You know, if we do that consistently, then we don't have overtime. Remember, all these things we are doing, we are sowing seeds. We are sowing seeds. Over time, then we show up more confident because our children know that they have our ear and they have our time. So one-on-one connection still works very well.
All right. I was going through our questions to see if we've missed anything as well as I go through the chat box. A lot of these questions have been answered already. It's just maybe they have been framed differently. And that's why, again, I'd like to call for you guys to share in the chat box. I have shared the question, what I now know is, and I mean, of course, this opens up to what I would like to know more is. I mean, feel free to answer whichever one of those questions that really speaks to you as I go through. So I have a final question, Dr. Caro. I feel like you've touched on it, but the way the question has been presented is very interesting. My daughter is addicted to her phone, and we are not sure whether or how to confiscate it. I think this goes back to now the thing that you're afraid of has already happened. You know, you're afraid that your kids will get addicted to their devices, but now they're already addicted. And I think we can expand it beyond just being addicted to the phone, but my teenager is already coming home past curfew and it's been happening, or, you know, all these things that have already been happening. How do we recover when we feel like a habit has already gone in really deep?
Yeah, good question. I think a huge dilemma for a number of us. And sometimes it's not even about you. Maybe you're parenting separately and this parent is doing different from what you're doing. How do I then recover? How do I make sure that I sort of undo what this other person is doing? So I'm just gonna throw that in together with that. It's just to also know that when things have gone too far, that is even more reason why connection is necessary. Your number one priority should be connection, should be the things that be connection, should be conversations around the dangers of those things, should be conversations around self-awareness, as opposed to let's stop this behavior. Okay, should be conversations about how hard doing this. Should be conversations around, you know what? Remember when I said it's okay to recalibrate? Look, we haven't done right by you up to this point, but I have come across new information. And now we need to do things differently. And then you have a conversation about as ourselves this, so that by the time you open school, we are not going to be doing it during the week, only over the weekend. But between now and then, how do we, what is the word? You know, when you're there's an addiction and you are pole, and I'm supposed to be the one to have that word here, but it's, yeah, sort of winning, exactly, yeah. Winning yourself, how do we win yourself off over time? And you have a plan around that. They will respond to us. I think we've already have this idea that they are bad and we need to attack them, but can we just do it and transition them and win them off of over time from a place of connection? It is possible to recalibrate.
Action is very similar to what they would do if they tried to be attacked by a wild animal. And also just to understand that an addictions are sometimes it is not going to be effective. The effectiveness of maybe taking it away completely right now forever. You know how you say now the phone is gone forever, might not be as effective as what you're trying to teach them, whereby it's like the phones are there and you can have a life while having your phone, and not necessarily having to only have a life if the phone has been completely taken away from you. Yeah. There's a very interesting question here, Dr. Caro, and I personally have my answer, but I would really like to hear what you have to say. The question is asking, my neighbor's children are so noisy. How can I stop them from playing outside my house? I mean, if you live in an apartment, this is a very real thing. You know, your child might be taught some ways, but then kuna huyo mtoto wa jirani 7 a.m. on a Saturday, ako kwa mlango akiscream. Dr. Caro, what do we do?
And hopefully we are now winding down so that now we don't also extend this. I think for me it's I saw that question and I was I don't know if you have a different answer, Wangari.
No, I don't think I have a better answer. I think because I teach children, I am very comfortable with redirecting, and that might not be possible for everyone. You might be very comfortable giving your children instructions, but not other people's children. But I think sometimes even going to the parent might be escalating a situation that's not that serious. Because I mean, just be calm. That would be the first statement I would say. Open the door and calmly request them to move where they are playing, you know? Because I personally have had a kid here who was blowing a whistle at 7 in the morning. And I went outside, and this is a reality of sometimes what might happen. I asked them to stop, but they are not my child. I'm not their parent. So there was resistance. They were like, what are you going to do? Now that's the point where now it goes to the next, you know. And actually for me, I didn't even approach the parent. I just told the child, hey, listen, I'm going to come there and talk to your parent about that. So do you think you can stop? I think it's just about being firm, but also being accommodating, because all of you live in this space and children must play. I guess 7 in the morning might be a bit much, but if it's like 2 p.m., please just let them scream, so that when it goes past a certain time, you can now be comfortably complaining that it has gone too far. But then it has to be a perfect balance of allowing kids to be kids. Dr. Caro, that was the final question, actually. So we are winding down. I just thought we could finish on a lighter note. A question about... Yes, I would just like to ask those of us, the 31 of us who are still here, anybody, please tell us, how was this experience for you? Have your questions been answered, or have you been directed in the right path to have your questions being answered? How are you feeling? What have you, what I now know is, or what is it that you would like to know more of? I'd just like to welcome maybe one person to give us something, a comment on how they are doing before we can close the meeting.
Yeah, and I want to remove the spotlight so that we're able to see everybody, because I've not been seeing people. I don't know if Nini's... Oh, cameras are not on. Hey, can we see a number of you? Yeah, what have you learned? I mean, it's really quiet. I'm like, when it was just you and I up in here, what have people learned? You know, what do you now know? How was the session for you? And just feel free to log out as we finish up. So this is the point where we are going